will now close public input. And reports. Looks up here, we got the correspondence card.
Lovely, thank you card from Debbie, and we appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity to work with the board over the last few years. It has been a pleasure. May the future endeavors of the board be fruitful. All my best, Debbie.
We wish her well. Doesn't do a lot of traveling.
Thank you. What's up next? Up is finance.
It's real early in the year, so I didn't put in a expense report. We are still working on encumbering the funds, so you'll have one next month. We are busy ending the year. The auditors will be on site next week, so that's what I've been focusing on, trying to get all of that paper in order. Once I do have some final figures, we'll probably have a public hearing next month to withdraw funds for the professional development. And that's about it. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, move right along. Counseling center. Our package. Any questions? You want to add anything to it?
No, I'm sure they're busy getting ready for school.
Yes. All right, and next up, we'll go right to the principal's report.
I offered 4 sections. The first highlighting the preliminary welcome introductory letter for students and a similar one for staff. And then also, I also put in updates related to the student handbook and staff handbook. All of the updates are related to best practices and or changing policies, et cetera, et cetera. I'm happy to entertain any questions, clarifications, so on, so forth.
Early in here, any questions of the principal? Seeing none, we'll move on. Buildings and grounds?
So summer encumbered funds, the summer projects for windows, caulking. The sets start either Friday or Monday. There's a major issue with caulking supply this year, I guess, so it's been delayed them getting the caulk. So it's on a truck heading here now for to Granite State now. So they should have in a day or two, and then they're gonna get their guys out. So they're gonna be starting on Friday or Monday. The front intercom and video system is all set. We just have to put the reader on the front door operational, just an application. So it's installed tomorrow. The HVAC actuator replacement has all been done. Everything's good with that. Front wall curb has been cut, and patch of 264 square feet has been done. The fire panel is upgraded Monday, so that's all squared up too. The soccer goals, the new soccer goals came in. They're assembled, we just have to put nets on 3 of them. And the Turfix, should be sometime in the next week. Yeah, we got Turfix coming in for the baseball and softball fields, so this will all be in the next week, so. And then we're gonna get the sanding done in September. We're scheduling that now for the baseball and softball fields. The sanding, get everything sanded. Hopefully we get some rain back for it.
I think everyone probably knows here, this campus really suffers when we don't get rain because we don't have enough irrigation capacity to keep up with it without a little bit of help. So right now, it doesn't look great out there.
It's coming. It's getting, the weather's cooling down.
A lot of golf courses look burnt right now too. I bet you use a little rain. questions?
Any questions?
How the soccer fields look? Good?
Main field's looking, it's a little yellow. It's coming on better than it was a couple weeks ago. And we've been running around like the guys, we've been just trying to get extra water on it as we can, you know, it runs every night, every other night on schedule. We've been adding any extra that we can on the soccer fields. On a daily basis.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions?
I have just a quick question. The back entrance, we had attended a booster club meeting last week and we came through the back door. And I know the concrete out front is getting fixed. I noticed some of it was kind of taped off. Do you know when that's scheduled to be redone or
We're
fixed?
still looking to get contractors out there. No, I'm having a hard time getting contractors that wanna actually knock those stairs, like they demo the stairs, cause they're concerned about what's behind it.
Right.
So I'm still working on it.
Okay. I just wanted, I'm
It's in-
sure it's on your radar. I just wanted to make sure it
And
was,
we're gonna patch a little cracks in it.
yeah, it's kind of a
We
safety
started-
issue.
We started, that's slowly starting to get done, we're gonna finish that.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of students use that, but I know,
The athletes tend to use it, but we're trying to eventually filter everyone through the front door.
yeah, we'll even you know, I'm sure,
Loading dock, I know it's closer to the gym that way, but.
yeah. And even your team, we just don't want to see anyone get hurt, so, okay, cool, thank you.
Anything else? We good? Right. Next up is our new student rep, Jude. Welcome, appreciate you being here. We're a friendly crowd, so don't worry about it, we'll be all right. So I hear something about the Bayside article, something you wanna let us know? Come on, all right. You got the- Anything you want.
I want to be clear, I told Jude that he's just showing up for today,
Oh.
and he's gonna have his first report once the school year starts. But I will add that if you check the recent Baysider, there's a whole multi-page write-up about one of our students who happens to be sitting here tonight. So definitely check that out if you haven't done so already. We, if it's not already up on the website,
It's in our packet.
we'll make sure we link to it on the website as well.
You'll have a report next month, but is there anything you want to tell us about yourself since you're gonna be with us for next year?
Honestly, not really. I'm really grateful to be here. I don't know, I didn't really prepare anything, honestly. But until next month.
All right,
Well done.
welcome. Look forward to it. All right, next up, SAU, the technology report.
Did we skip over athletic department?
Did I say, oh, we're gonna, yes, he doesn't need to speak. He's all set, he's gonna do something when it comes to the handbook.
Okay.
So, yeah, sorry. We spoke.
If anyone has any questions, we could do that. I just,
He said he didn't have anything.
started yesterday, that's where we're,
So, yeah, I did skip, I crossed it off, but, so, yes, now, technology report.
It's the contract data privacy agreement.
Yep.
Which we've been developing and implementing in various forms over a couple of years. It's one of the weak spots that we identified in our compliance with the student data privacy state laws, is that when we contract out services and somebody comes into the school who doesn't work for us with one of our devices, they're often not compliant with all the state requirements, but those requirements still exist. We're still responsible for safeguarding student data and not allowing the use of software for which there is not a data privacy agreement. This is a huge hassle, and it has been now for about 5 years, so we're sort of used to it. So I think this is just a good next step. We can give it to our vendors when we sign our contracts with them before they come in. It doesn't mean there won't be issues with what they want to use, but it means we have a chance to highlight what those issues are going to be before they're here, which is better than they've been working with a student for 3 weeks, using something they're not supposed to use, then we realize that's happening, and we try to stop it, and it interrupts services and becomes a real hassle.
Yep,
We have
sounds good.
questions?
Yeah.
Any questions on this? All right. Curriculum, Matt?
In your packet, you have my report that highlights SAT scores for Prospect Mountain from this past school year. Overall, if you look at our combined average of a 974 compared to the state's average of a 995, we were comparable in terms of the ELA scores. We were one off from the state average. But in the math scores, you can see a decline in that from a 514 to a 461 there. So we certainly are feeling good about where we are with our ELA. We certainly can continue to push forward. Again, our hope is to be at or above the state average. But in math, we are declining and have done so over the last few years. Some of the things that we are working on with the math department, again, we talk about having data, but actually looking at the data. The one thing that the SAT has changed in a sense of it used to, when the scores came out, we were able to take a look at all of the questions that the SAT were there and how we did compared to the state averages. So if we were significantly below the state average, we could take a look at the actual question or something very similar to that and really kind of break it down, work with the departments and say, where do we think the child might have gone wrong? They also would provide, here's the responses. So if the answer was an A, they would say certain percentages were A, B, C, and D. So then we could really kind of look at what that was, so to find out where that tripped up. They don't do that anymore. What I'm able to do, though, is look at the type of question it is, and then they have a bank of questions that I can then go to and look at it and say, okay, here's similar questions, but it's not the exact one. So what I've done is I've provided both the ELA and the math department sort of where all of our faults are in terms of where we scored above and where we're below, and here are a bank of questions to take a look at. And so we're going to be breaking those down even further. That's where the STAR comes in, where STAR gives us the specific pieces of it, so we can really break down based off of the individual content area, the standard, versus this is a question that comes from Algebra 1, but also it's tied into a science question as well. So we'll be doing that. This past spring, our math department met with our 8th grade teams to review the STAR data as a way of preparing for our incoming freshmen, and we'll continue to utilize that data as a way of improving our instruction. But certainly we've got to make some adjustments to the way in which we're approaching that. And it comes down to a lot of it is increasing our rigor and our consistency on delivering the standards. In science, you see we've increased quite a bit in science, which has been a positive piece. The state average isn't out yet with SAS. It takes a little bit longer for them to come out with the state averages. So when in the fall, I'll be updating that proficiency there. Moving forward this year with our professional development, our focus will continue on our embedded honors. A lot of work has been done over the last 2+ years and really getting ready for the rollout for this year. We'll continue to look at providing some support for our current courses, but also in the development stages of our grade 10 courses. My hope is, and I think the faculty feels a lot more comfortable with the process that we're using, and I think the development of the course scope and sequences will be a lot faster for them as they go through that. We'll continue to work with Allie Brown, who's been our consultant, who has made some great connections with our faculty. So she'll be providing some support via remote, but also be here during professional development days and a few other days throughout the school year, again, as a way to help support this process of embedded honors. One of the things, there were a couple things, this past June, right after school got out, we offered a 2-day workshop around this idea of embedded honors and really helping teachers kind of look at their first couple units. And as a process, as we went through there was about 20 of our faculty here for that. And there was a lot of dialogue on how to use those formative assessments and being able to use them on a more consistent basis to get better feedback as to how kids are doing. And when we talk about formative assessments, more beyond just, I gave a homework assignment and the homework assignment came back in, more sort of some exit tickets and things of that nature so that it's immediate feedback. It doesn't take a lot to kind of go through. So it's not sort of a summative where, the teacher might go through, if Mr. Follen was given an essay, essay, it might take them, you know, several days to be able to go through that essay. These formatives would be able to, something that could turn around quickly so that we could adjust the teaching and learning. And that came from the faculty themselves saying that we really want to do some more work on formative, so we'll continue that process. And then something that's really not a huge high school thing is RTI, this idea of intervention. A lot of it is more K through 8. You hear about WIN and stuff like that at the elementary grade levels. But again, as part of this conversation in June, people were talking about how do we support our kids when they're struggling, right? How do we go and help support them in there? And you know, I've worked with Dave in the school counseling department to try to find some ways where we can provide some support from our faculty during the school day, if not some time after school, if that exists. So that's a challenge, and it's a challenge for almost all high schools to be able to provide that intervention pieces of it, because one, it's a scheduling piece, and another piece is where our kids willing to stay after school, is there time within their schedules to be able to do that. But we'll continue to work on that as we move forward. So, and again, lastly, the big piece is going to be taking a look at data. I mean, we've really got to start to look at data and break it down. The great part about data, it's not emotional, so we can look at it. And it's understanding what the data is telling us, right? We can have all kinds of data, but if we don't know what it's saying, it doesn't help. And it's not just Matt handing data over to people and saying, here you go, use it. It's really working with the departments to kind of understand what it's saying, and then how can we use that on our day-to-day instruction. So that's it.
Questions?
Quick one, did the state offer like any indicator of why the math dropped like 41% down to 30% for the scoring, like across the board? 'Cause that's a pretty big.
Yeah, no, if you look at the overall pieces of it, when you look at the average math scores, again, it didn't drop significantly as ours did. So we have to take a look at that piece of it. And again, I think we spoke about this last night at the Alton board meeting. When we look at our STAR scores as well, so STAR is supposed to be able to align both SAS and SAT stuff. And, you know, where we look at our 9th and 10th graders, we see growth. And we're seeing growth from 9th to 10th, but we don't see that same growth for 10th to the SAT. Different test, yes, but you would think that because it's partly in the same type of questioning, that we would see some growth in that SAT, and we haven't done that yet. So we'll take a look at, is STAR something we want to continue to use? There is the PSAT, and so maybe we may want to talk about maybe shifting to that, because then that's maybe more aligned to the SAT, but that'll be something that we talk with the administration about this school year.
Certainly not an excuse, because clearly those scores are, put in any adjective you'd like.
Not where we want them.
Not where we want them to be.
They're
Not good.
terrible.
They're terrible. But I know that, having proctored a lot of SATs, I do know sometimes it is the language used on the SAT, so again, not an excuse, but just, that is a,
Well, didn't we have more students take that test this past year?
Yes.
So there's that
maybe,
potential to.
maybe they're not used to the test, the
Right.
phrasing, or.
I mean, that could be something.
Typically around about 70 kids-ish taking it, and we had 86 take it this year.
So that might
So.
kind of dilute that a little bit, just not having that experience of taking the test, or there's more that haven't.
And again, when you look at the NMSQT, which is the fall version for the National Scholar Qualifier, when you look at our group of kids that took that, we did extremely well, right? But those are sort of more of our top tier kids, so it's what are we doing with that rest of that X group that's left over, right, if you will. And so we've got to look at the language of the questions. We've got to look at, you know, our standards, our scope and sequence, to make sure that, you know, with our 9th grade next year, the standards are going to be the same, regardless of quote unquote what level you might be at. So that should help in the long run, so kids are getting the same standards that are coming at them. Whereas when you look at an Algebra 1, whether it's a general class, a college level class, or an honors level class, the information that comes from the content can vary. And so if I'm not seeing some of the information that I'm going to be seeing in 2 years, if I'm never getting to that, it's going to be very difficult for me to do well on that test. So And that's not always the case. Some of it is tests. Some kids don't do well on tests, and that happens, so.
Said my daughter doesn't test that great, but she had a difficult time with the language of some of the questions and the math. She didn't do as well as she wanted to, probably do it again, but that was the first time ever seeing it and the way it was worded and stuff, and we talked afterwards. Was, to her, it was confusing on different things, so.
Everything that everyone has said is true and is valid and makes sense. And we have state averages as references. There is really no reason, understanding the demographics of our catchment area, for our students not to be performing at least around the state average in all subjects, at all times. And many of you know that one of my challenges here has been trying to figure out how to shift a culture in which we weren't using data to ask each other difficult questions and have what can be hard conversations, so that we do that and respond proactively, right? Okay, this isn't working. That doesn't mean that we're bad or we haven't done our best. It just means it isn't working. It's not emotional. Somebody just said it. But our next step as professionals now is, what are we going to try? Because the answer can never be to throw up our hands. The answer always has to be to try something new. We met new teachers today. We had new staff orientation for all 3 schools, and this is basically, in the short time I had with them, what I talked about, is please join a culture and be part of a culture where we are asking difficult questions and we are trying to figure out hard problems proactively, because that's what we owe to kids. I don't enjoy sitting here and seeing these results that I know in 2017 and for about 10 years prior to that, this was a school where the kids did perform at or above the state average level in mathematics. So this is a long-standing problem that he and I can't figure out, right? A principal can't figure out. It takes teacher engagement. It takes all of us to try to, and we may be wrong, but at least we need to come up with some ideas and try some things.
Any other questions? All right. We now move on to the superintendent report.
On the table, with apologies. First, on the topic of federal grant allocations, the last time I talked, there was this question as to whether or not our money would come through or our allocations would come through from the Fed. The money would be sent to the states. It was. I mentioned this in Alton last night. I may not need to now in Barnstead tomorrow. I think we're down to 0 grants that are going to be awarded directly to the high school under any federal entitlement program. We might earn a competitive grant. We might have grants that we go after. We'll have REAP, which isn't administered by the State Department of Education. So in the state's grants management system, we have IDEA, which is the special ed federal grant. We have Title 1A, which is an intervention grant. We have Title 2A, which is a professional development grant, and Title 4A, which is sort of a Swiss Army knife school improvement grant, but not a lot of money. That money is now all being allocated by the state either to Alton or to Barnstead, and they're leaving it up to us to figure out the equitable, appropriate way to use that money across all the schools. They still calculate our allocations, the amount of money we get, based on the total number of students who reside in each town. So our high school enrollment is still part of it. Theoretically, we should be getting the same amount of money. You can never be sure because the amount of money fluctuates every year too. But theoretically, if the money didn't fluctuate, our student count would still include all of our high school kids, and we would get the same money, but it would just be distributed differently than it's been in the past. The end of the story, though, is that money that you may have heard in the news, and you certainly heard from me, was sort of up in the air. It did end up flowing to states, and we've received our allocations. And it's not as much money as it was last year, right, Matt?
Unfortunately not.
The high school is fully staffed with certified teachers and administrators. We have a building-based sub under employment for the year. Food service, she made her final hire, right? So we're full in the kitchen.
Down full-time and part-time.
Jim's down 1.5. So if you know anyone who would like to work as a school custodian, we'd love to talk to them. Paul Borsch needs 2 paraprofessionals. I talked to him this morning, and he had at least 1 interview scheduled, so I think we're gonna fill these spots. Custodial could be the toughest one, so I'm not joking when I say if you know anybody, send them our way. We'd love to meet anybody who could join the team. We, otherwise, we're in good shape here. Capital planning, I've attached, for those of you who may not have seen it before, at the back of my report tonight, my kind of page 1 of guidance on capital planning, why we do it, how we should do it annually, August through the following August, right, over the course of the year, what the steps are involved in it. If you read through that, you'll see things that you recognize. Oh yeah, in December, he usually brings us, this is our proposed capital plan for the next year, and we endorse that even though we're not sure where all the money's coming from. And then, right, that's kind of, and I like to repeat these things because I think it's important, right? These should be routines. These are things a well-functioning school system should do every year without fail, as if it's a habit that we don't want to lose track of. We'll get to that in my goal setting for this year. On the topic of our crisis team protocols, you will see a new crisis team protocol document at the JMA September meeting. I want to give a shout out to Allie Bortz, who's been leading this work, and she's been including Lori Eckberg. They're expanding our crisis team protocol documents beyond what's required by law, which is suicide prevention and response, to other kinds of crises, mental health and otherwise, that can occur in a school in order to provide more guidance to staff around what to do. Right? Everybody, the day after something happens, everybody wants to know, what did we have in place, and could it have been more, could it have been better? I think they're being proactive on this, which is really nice, and you'll be seeing that document, which is right now I think about 15 pages long, at your next meeting. The meat of my report tonight is the last 2 topics, your open enrollment update. We had received 34 applications for fall enrollment at the end of May. Most of them have enrolled, but a few decided not to. Some have returned to the schools in their districts of residence, which is fine. Others have decided to do something different. We open rolling admissions by policy on August 1st, and as of this morning, we had 32 incoming students, and I know that this week, and it's only Tuesday, the phone's been ringing in the counseling office. So I don't know if we will start the year with 35 open enrollment students, but I believe we're going to start with at least 32 because that's what we have today. And if those other 3 spots fill, then they do. It's kind of a pretty flexible process right now because we don't have a wait list, so we don't have to worry about any of that stuff. There's no timeline right now. The Supreme Court doesn't tell you when they're going to do anything. They just do it. And if you go to the New Hampshire Supreme Court website, you can look up Pittsfield's appeal case against the State Board of Education, and it's been there for months, and it's still there, and there are about 10 pages of pending cases, and it's one of them. So when we know more, I'll tell you. But I do know that some briefs were filed, I think, just in the last week or so, because I received a couple of documents via email yesterday. Pittsfield had to correct some statements it had made in an earlier submission to the court. And then related to that is the last one on Granite State Academy, the alternative program that resulted in us receiving innovation school approval from the State Board of Education. This is where I figured if I'm going to take up any of your time tonight, it'll be on this topic. So Jason and Christy, with more patience than they probably thought they had, have bared with us for months and months and months. I think we talked about this last probably November, I'm guessing, when you all voted to let them take it from there. It's finally done. It got to their lawyer and our lawyer, and that took a little while. And we finally resolved the last few questions. I've tried to outline the results of some of that here, the important stuff for everybody. But I sent this document to Christy and Jason last week. They had a chance to look at it and can speak for themselves, but have indicated to me at least that they feel good.
The changes we asked before that we wanted are in there, so.
Yep.
So here's what this agreement means. It's ready to be signed. It could be executed this week. It's important that everyone in this room understands what that would mean, I think. Surprises are bad. Rule number 1, no surprises. K-12 education would like to launch its online school in New Hampshire now. And if this agreement is executed this week, they will. That means you might hear an ad on the radio for the Granite State Academy online school, which nobody's ever heard of in New Hampshire. They would hire K-12, not us, but their end of the deal. They would hire, I think, they've told me they're thinking 2 New Hampshire-based employees, 1 to run operations and 1 to oversee special ed services. And that's their part of the deal, that's their problem, but we're partners, so we'd be aware of what they're doing. And they would be advertising essentially rolling admissions, call it a soft launch as opposed to a big spectacular, first day of the first year. And they would start this fall. Here's what that means, and this is important, again, I think, for everyone to understand. Students enrolling in this alternative program would technically still be enrolling at Prospect Mountain High School as open enrollment students. That means I would ask you tonight, this is actually under number 3, sorry, it's related, to create capacity. Because right now, each year, I ask you to vote to set capacity, which the law gives you the authority to do for open enrollment students. 10 or 15 the first year, 20 the second year, 35 this year. I would ask you to consider opening unlimited capacity, or 1,000 seats, or whatever made-up number you want to use, for students in the alternative program, not in person. The in-person number remains at 35. So these students don't come to Prospect Mountain, they're not right, they don't take up space in the building, they're going to school online in a program that you own and host through this partnership with K-12 Education. So I just covered items 2 and 3 in my written list here at the same time, sorry, but I don't have to say it again. K-12 in this agreement, one of the important features that we had to work out over the last several months was that the joint board is indemnified against financial risk. In other words, until we actually receive revenue, K-12 doesn't get paid, and if for some reason we never receive revenue, K-12 never gets paid. They're willing to take that risk because they want to do this in New Hampshire. And then finally, K-12 Education, as their name implies, they run these schools from kindergarten to 12th grade, and the JMA was written allowing the joint board to oversee programs from 7th through 12th grade. Most of us weren't here writing the JMA, and I think the few of us who weren't really thinking about a day when we'd want to do a kindergarten program through this partnership. So in the agreement with K-12, the joint board has either 1 or 2 years, depending on what the legislature does, to find a way to extend its capacity, its open enrollment, down to kindergarten. Obviously, it would be my job to work with you on that and figure out the best answer. If the legislature should make statewide open enrollment state law by next year, then K-12 would look for us to do it in 1 year. If it takes longer than that, then we get the second year. So there's some flexibility there because they understand the legislative challenges that we're facing. So that's where that is. And then the last thing down at the bottom of my memo is, I probably don't have to point this out to you, and I don't know how much any of you feel this. It might be that I feel it, we feel it more than you do. But being the only open enrollment school in the state, and the first, has been politically challenging. Not everybody loves it. I don't know if you've heard or noticed. So there's some heat that comes with this. I'm not telling you this because it bothers me, it doesn't. I'm doing my job, working for you, pursuing your strategic objectives in the best way we've been able to think to. This would do the same thing, right? When there's a Granite State Academy online school, you have an alternative to VLAX, ad on the radio or on television, if that's what K-12 does, people will talk about that. People will have opinions about that. And when I send tuition invoices when I send letters notifying superintendents in other school districts that Heidi's going to be sending them tuition invoices, there will be citizens and school board members who have feelings about that and opinions about that, and you're gonna hear about it. So, I never want to bring you anything, take the next step in any project, take any action, and then afterwards have you feel like, well, if you had told us that, we might not have done it, or we might have thought twice. I wanna be open, right? This is the road we're on. This is a pivot point. If we execute the agreement with K-12 now, it's a good time for them because they can launch going into the school year. They're not concerned about being too late because they've done this a lot, and they know that a lot of kids who end up in online schools start in their local schools and are looking to move into online programs later in September and in October and through the fall. So they don't seem stressed about that at all. They are ready to go. So I think that's my summary, and I won't be surprised if you have some discussion.
I'd say on my end, being a pioneer and having the heat come towards me personally, I don't have a problem with that. This is gonna happen somewhere in the state. Some schools are going to do this. There are a bunch of different states, and we just happen to be the first one, which means, yeah, gonna be looked at. And I think we're okay with that. We've talked about this enough that people in town have asked me every time I go to a town hall or anything else, when is the Stride school coming on? When's the K-12 school coming on? There's a lot of questions on it. So it's just for me, it's just another opportunity for our kids to take a different pathway. It's not everybody can be inside a year or VLAX. So for me, I'm very comfortable getting this started now.
I just have a question. So if somebody, let's say from Epsom or like a somewhat nearby town, decides that they want to do this, and then they start asking to do things here, can they or no, because it wasn't the open enrollment? And I guess where I'm getting, like, I could see in the cases of like extra things, not necessarily classroom, right? But like, do you end up with extra children that you didn't foresee?
So my answer to that is that this is a separate program from our in-person school. And it does create a challenge though. Every online school in the United States over the last 25 years that they've existed has had to grapple with, what if a kid in our online school plays soccer? How do you do that? And the answers are different in different states. Our Department of Education and State Board of Education stay out of questions like that, at least with regard to sports, because the NHIAA has jurisdiction over that. What K-12 says is, we don't get a lot of kids who want to do high school sports. The typical profile of their online student doesn't tend to be a student athlete, unless it's a student who's doing club athletics at such a level that it prevents them from going to school every day, and that's a kid who's not participating in high school sports anyway. So K-12's suggestion to me has been, don't expect it to happen much, if at all, and it might be a while, but when it does, we're gonna have to figure it out. And again, Eliza, my first answer is, that's not what this is.
Or what, you know what I mean? It could be other things.
My suggestion to the people who care in Concord has been, if kids all over the state are either going to school on VLAX or the Granite State Academy, they should be allowed to play sports locally where they live. That's what they should be allowed to do, in my opinion, but that would take some intervention by the state, which right now they don't do with sports.
Is it any different than if you had a homeschool student?
Well, so homeschoolers can participate and do, and we're getting better and better at this. We have more and more homeschool kids.
So why is it any different?
If they live here.
That's
So
the difference.
homeschool participation is
Okay.
based on residency. And that's an interesting question, because I did get a request from a family who don't live in Alton or Barnstead to do sports because they, you know, they don't participate in public schooling where they live. And I told them I'm sorry. We've opened a lot of cans of worms here, but we're not looking for new ones. We're doing the things that we've strategically identified as things worth doing. And we don't run toward every fight we're invited to.
So the online enrollment won't count towards Crossroad Mountain's total enrollment. In regards to sports, just because if we have 200 kids sign up online, that push us up to Division II.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm.
So that's an important question. It is one of the things that we highlighted in front of the State Board of Education when we applied to be an innovation school so we could do this, is that they shouldn't count. And again, the Department of Education says, we don't get involved in that. You have to talk to the NHIAA,
So across that
right?
bridge when we
So
get
we
there.
would have to go to Mr. Collins and file appeals and all that kind of thing. I mean, I think there's a possible future here. We could be trending in the direction of being, if we're successful over the next few years in athletics, being pushed out of Division III anyway. The trick would be to not get pushed all the way to Division I. But I do think that's a fight we could probably successfully. It seems like we should be able to
That's reasonable.
succeed in that.
Jim, could you go over like number 4 in a little bit of detail? What kind of money are we talking about here and that sort of thing?
So under the open enrollment statute now, we invoice tuition to another school district at 80% of whatever their per pupil cost was last year. Last year, the average per pupil spending in New Hampshire, statewide, was $20,500. Let's just call that 20,000 because you know how I am with doing math in my head. So that's a $16,000 tuition bill. The per pupil cost of paying K-12 when we're receiving revenue is under $10,000.
So how much money does K-12 make out of this?
Well, I don't know what their costs are, but I know what they charge us is just under $10,000. So as long as our revenue is more than that, there's money left here for other purposes. Now, if you remember the innovation school plan, it involved an outdoor education piece. That cost $2,600 per student per year. The scouting council that owns TL Storer isn't as financially able to take all the risk as K-12 is. So they're out right now until the money part's figured out. K-12's ready to do this, even though they know they're not going to get any money right now until it's figured out. The Scout Council is saying, gee, we wish we could, but we can't. So talk to us when New Hampshire figures out how tuition flows. To go back to your first question though, Mr. Follen, one of the ways I could see the legislature reconciling all of the controversy that has grown around the idea of statewide open enrollment is by changing the amount of money involved. But I can't predict what the legislature is going to do. That's a really, really dangerous thing to try to do, especially in New Hampshire. I mean, but there are good arguments, and I think in this room we've talked about this enough over the years. Everyone has an understanding of sunk costs. That when another student walks in the front door of Prospect Mountain High School, it doesn't cost us $20,000. It costs us a Chromebook and maybe a few other things, but it doesn't, right? Because everything else is paid for, right? It's in our budget, it's already happening. If the legislature said, well, we believe statewide open enrollment should happen and we'll fund it the way we fund VLAX, which is charter school money, about $9,500 per student, plus about another $3,500, $4,000 each, so it's $12,000 or $13,000, and you can get that for open enrollment, but not 80% and not 100%. I know we have some citizens, some residents who would say, that's terrible, we're not getting as much as we should, but you all know that I would sit here and say, you should say yes to that deal, right? Because we're not going to build, well, I'm not going to recommend that you build so much capacity that we have to add a bunch of staff. I'm going to say just fill the empty seats, right? Preserve what we have for Alton and Barnstead's kids. That was our original goal, right? We don't want to shut down the metal shop. We don't want to shut down the wood shop. We want to have a vibrant music program, right? We want all these things. So I would say whatever amount you get that exceeds your costs is a good deal if you're just filling excess capacity. So back to GSA, if we did the K-12 online school with the TL store outdoor part, that's about $12,000 per student total cost, give or take. As long as revenue's 13 or more, in the typical state, K-12 has determined about 2.5% of public school eligible students will enroll in some kind of online school. VLAX currently in New Hampshire has less than 2% of the public school eligible kids. So the folks at K-12 believe very strongly there are families in New Hampshire who will enroll in an online school who have made the decision for whatever reason not to enroll in VLAX. They believe that market exists right now, and there are 1,000 kids who they should be able to get into an online school. So the margin doesn't have to be great to make a difference. You could bring in 13,000 and spend 12 on 1,000 kids. And that's enough money to feed your capital fund, to provide some property tax relief, and to continue to be a little bit different than other public school districts, but that's not necessarily bad. You know, public education hasn't changed in 150 years. Maybe it's time.
We have a family in Barnstead that is actually using the program, and she's ecstatic for her daughter as a child that just didn't fit in up here. And they can't say enough about it. They're willing to come here and talk about to anybody after it goes through about how good it is and what it's done for them, because you get all the materials, you get an online teacher, you get all those things, except you're at your own home in your comfort area with your professor and those kinds of things. So there is definitely a group out there.
So, I guess, are we at the point where we want to vote on approving the final amended agreement? Are we at that point?
I see it, yes. Is that a motion?
Okay, I make a motion to approve the final amended agreement with K-12 Education for Granite State Academy.
Second.
Is there further discussion?
Do we need to have a capacity number added to that, or?
I would ask you to take another road after this if you don't, but that's up to you.
One amended, unlimited capacity.
Sure, I can amend that motion to include unlimited capacity.
Second.
Okay.
Same second over there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Or no's? Abstentions? All right, very exciting, very exciting, a long time trying to build towards this. And that's it for you?
So you get the policy.
No, I saw that.
I tried to simplify policy though.
Yes.
Hopefully it saves time, not costs time.
Now we're up to action items. The first one is the oil bid.
In your packet, you have a memo, it should have been, to the Prospect Mountain JMA School Board, not Alton. But it's the same, so I combine all three districts and go out and, see if we can get the best oil price, and we contacted Urban Fuel, Davis Fuel, and Huckleberry Oil. Huckleberry never responded. Urban Fuel, we've been doing business with them for many years here at the high school. We're very satisfied with them, and they always come in with the lowest price. So I'm asking tonight if you could approve the Irving Oil for the price of $2.513 per gallon for the upcoming winter season.
Make a motion to approve Irving Oil for the price of $2.513 per gallon for the upcoming winter season.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nope. Next, we have the 25-26 athletic faculty and staff and student parent handbooks. And who wants to take this show over? You and just you?
Which one first is me? I don't have the packet in front of me. Is it me? All right.
Do you want to talk about it?
Do we wanna separate them, faculty and staff first?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. I'm happy to talk more about them, but I gave you the changes for the parent-student handbook. So I'm happy to answer any questions or clarifications. I'm sorry, I thought I did that in the principal's
Yeah,
report.
just making, I know, cause James wanna talk about maybe this section, so, does anybody have anything with the principal? He brought stuff before,
For the
faculty,
staff.
staff, and parent handbook. Okay, seeing none?
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve the 25-26 faculty staff handbook.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay.
So now I'm gonna make a motion to approve the 25-26 student parent handbook.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
So next up is the athletic handbook.
Jason, I'm sorry. Do we want to acknowledge the state decision regarding cell phone, and how that's a big change for everyone?
Yes, if you want.
You have
to.
a policy coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in just a minute. Yep.
Sorry. I just wanted to
We'll be
make
talking
sure we
about,
vocalize
we're talking
it
about policy, the
tonight.
state changed from bell to bell, you can't have your cell phone, but we have policies.
Okay, thank you.
I know, if you're talking from the public, I get that, that makes sense. Mr. Christie.
I got one easy one and then one I'm looking to have a little discussion on. First one, we're looking to change just the wording of 2 weeks to 14 days. We get a lot of questions about holidays, teacher workshops, whatever. So we're just gonna go 14 days, calendar days, for the academic probation period that we use for the kids.
Makes sense.
So that one's pretty easy. Do we wanna do these separately or all together?
I think we're gonna probably do the handbook as one.
Okay, perfect, perfect. The next one is around, attendance. And so, I think there's an interesting thing going on right now about just attendance and the importance of it, for lack of a better term, in a world where we're allowing things online, we have homeschoolers, we have kids doing VLAX, we have kids going to Concord, Kingswood, you know, so when we think about an athlete, and our current handbook says you have to physically be in school the full day before, the day of, and the day after to participate in the next event. And to me, that seems a little much, maybe a little bit too much. But I think it begs the question, does attendance need to be something that we specifically spell out to an athlete in regard to the days of their game? So I have a recommendation which we can talk about, but I think the broader question is, if we are holding them accountable from a grade standpoint and from a behavior standpoint, do we have to hold them accountable from an attendance standpoint? Because I could argue whether they're at school that day or not doesn't impact anything to do with their athletic side of things. As long as they're here for the bus, you know, as long as they're on time for the games and those sort of things. Now, again, I'm not saying I necessarily agree or disagree with that, but in a world of attendance being looked at differently, I'm just curious everyone's feedback about.
I think kids need to be in school.
Yeah.
Is the red your proposed language?
Yeah,
That's
and
the
I
bottom
can,
line.
I can lay out kind of what the proposal is. I guess I was more so looking for just some general feedback, because I've spoken to the kids about this, I've spoken to administrators, I've talked to teachers. I think I have a pretty good feel so far.
So I feel like from, like, seeing some of their away games and just the timing of, like, getting back, like, I mean, like, I've sent my kid to school the day after coming back from, like, Berlin or White Mountain, but quite frankly, like, she should have stayed home. She only went because, like, that's the rule. But would it, as a parent, would it have made more sense to allow her to, like, get some rest and do the work that she's missing instead of going to school, basically being a zombie, coming home and kind of doing everything all over again? Like, I don't know.
And I
That's
think
just
James,
my
James makes a
opinion.
good point where it's, we have grades.
Well, right, like if-
Yeah, if we have a straight A student and they're keeping up with that, they're not causing issues in the school behavioral reasons, and they just happen to be like a little bit sick or a little bit tired or something like that, for the well-being of the kid, should we let them stay home that one day?
So, first of all, I would hope that the athletic director would be cognizant of late night trips and not schedule them on a Tuesday,
So it's.
as
I
opposed
think
to,
you have a
as
lot-
opposed.
Every school can't do
It's
that though.
supplied by the
I know, but I'm just, that's my first point. My second point is the recommendation here is that it would move to, students are required to attend all of their scheduled classes in full for the day of a game scrimmage. I mean, that pretty much simplifies the,
Wait, instead of the day.
correct,
it's the day
so if we
before
went
the
with that
day.
recommendation versus the, full day before, on and after. I mean, doesn't that?
No, that's what he's asking.
Yeah,
That's what he's asking.
right, so what,
That's the
so I guess what is,
recommendation
what is the, what is the,
That's the recommendation and ultimate ask. I can maybe argue, why are we even enforcing that? It doesn't have any impact.
okay, but we're not gonna argue, let's focus, let's not play devil's advocate here, let's look at this recommendation, right? So how do people feel about this recommendation? That's the question.
Sounds like you wanna get rid of the exceptions can be granted.
Well, so the only problem would be a lot of times they have to leave before the
Right.
day's over, like depending on where their game is. So it may not be that they're choosing.
Well, that's different.
That's
If
gonna
the
be
bus
the
leaves at,
exception,
yeah, I mean, if
right.
the bus leaves at 1 o'clock, they're leaving at 1 o'clock.
Right. But I feel like this makes sense.
Yeah. Any other changes in the athletic handbook?
No, this is it.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the 25-26 athletic handbook.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So, we're all on the same page, so, it's good. Good. Oh, hope you're ready for some reading.
Uh-huh.
Okay, next up, policies, we have first readings.
I make a motion to approve first
Hold on.
readings of 8, I was just gonna go with what you said.
So
for
the
first
last thing I
five.
sent you to try to simplify
I
this,
was-
you're on it?
Yeah,
Okay, if you're
yeah.
already there, sorry.
Yeah, I'm already there.
Go for it.
I make a motion to approve for first reading policies AB, BEC, BEDG, EHAB, and EHAG.
Second.
Eric seconds, thank you. Any discussion? Just first reading, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, now we can go to Tim.
So what I tried to do for you here is it's been a crazy summer with the NHSBA. This is a little unusual. Normally, we get guidance on policy changes going into the fall, September, sometimes even October. And then you see, oh, this law changed and we need to ask you to change these policies in October or November. The NHSBA has been very aggressive this summer with do this, do it all before the first day of school. So we looked through it. I talked to some of our attorney friends, and I think the three that you need to discuss, make sure you're happy with the language of, and adopt, waiving first and second reading, are the dress code, which I don't think will be difficult for you. The unauthorized communication devices, formerly known as the cell phone policy, which is a new mandate under state law. And IK, earning of high school credit, because it affects things we do with kids as soon as we're in session. And it updates, it actually eliminates the current IK and 3 other existing policies and brings a whole bunch of things that exist in the Ed 306 regulations together in one policy. So these, and I'm sorry to have to say this to you, I think are worth your time to go through together tonight and adopt. With whatever changes you want to make, if you do.
Do you want me to make a motion first and then discuss, or? Okay, make a motion to waive first and second reading and adopt JICA, JIJC, and IK.
Second.
Now, we'll open discussion, we can go through these by one in sections, so if we have questions, so JICA, student dress code, as we go through this, if people have questions.
So all of our principals had a chance to weigh in on this. I believe this is a dress code policy, that could exist identically in all three schools. Your handbook language already accommodates everything this says. It is the current high school policy with a few proposed changes highlighted in yellow.
Okay, I don't have any issues with the dress code.
What about, the hats and head coverings? Isn't that conflicting with the high school?
No, didn't the high school approve it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it says students are not allowed to wear hats and head coverings.
Oh, did that need to be deleted?
2G
So the hats may
on
be
the first
worn
Hats
has
may
been
be
added.
worn.
Sorry, that's a good catch. Thank you, Kristen.
And then my other
So
question
G gets
is,
deleted.
on 2A on the first page, clothing that is revealing or exposes private parts, to whose opinion is revealing? Like, I've seen a broad spectrum of people saying that's not revealing, oh, that's too revealing.
Yep.
So who makes that call, and are the teachers gonna be on the same page about that? Because you may have one teacher that says that is not acceptable versus another teacher who doesn't care.
Yep.
Well, I think teachers should
So-
really just be handing it over to administration, first of all. I don't think that we should put teachers in that position.
The answer to the question does make that the rule, and it's at the very end. The principal determines what is and is not acceptable under this policy. So the way that gets operationalized in a school, a teacher may make a referral to the principal. I have concerns about what this child is wearing, I'm not sure this is appropriate. And what they've been doing, I think, at the high school is they give the child a pass to the main office on a certain color paper. So that when the kid gets to the office, without having now, what that means is the teacher has not called out the kid in front of a class for what you're wearing. There was no discussion about that in the classroom, and there shouldn't be. But the kid arrives at the office with that pass, which tells the office staff, oh, principal or assistant principal, if the principal's not available, can you come take a look at this? And that would be a change, I think, in some of the schools. But that's the change that we would be looking for, and I think this policy enables. And then the other addition there at the end, because I knew a lawyer once who used to say, very profound, process is good, give people process options. If if a parent or guardian is dissatisfied with the principal's assessment of discipline, they get a level of appeal, they can come to me, I'll investigate, I'll hear them, and then decide if I think the principal's action was reasonable.
Jude, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I feel like revealing is just too subjective, and I feel like that will kind of vary, like, by teacher, because at least in my experience with, like, my peers getting dress coded, I feel like one teacher is a lot more, like, on it than another teacher, and I feel like that could create some issues, because, like, I understand if someone has the final say, but if someone's wearing something that's like considered revealing by one teacher and not by another teacher, then they might not get in trouble and somebody else would get in trouble because they were in a different situation.
I think you're always gonna have that, though.
But that's actually precisely why, Jude, you're right, and that is precisely why the way this works in practice, teachers only make referrals, and it is the principal making the decision.
So that way you get one standard.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, I can't tell you that.
But I feel like, won't that mean that some could slip under the radar, under the cracks, if a teacher doesn't make a referral?
Of course,
Sure.
nothing's perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing's perfect, and really, we're here to educate students, not to be dress code police every minute of the day.
I mean, 1 year of my career, I think I've spent a lot of time hearing and thinking about dress codes. It hasn't been a big issue in this school most years, or in other schools where I've worked.
I was going to ask, what is your experience, how many students got dress coded last year? Specifically females.
Typically, how this manifests in the school, if not all of the time, it's the beauty of being in a technological age. We'll get a Google chat, hey, I think so-and-so might have some kind of inappropriate attire. Typically, if it's a female student, Dean Lee or a counseling director, one of our 2 female administrators will go down and check it out. And if they think they need to have a conversation with the student, they do so. Mr. Delbarone and I usually touch base with the male students, and it's usually like inappropriate attire, clothing that has certain messages or labeling or pictures. We pull them aside, we speak to them in public, and it's, I'd say in the last 2 months of school, I had to deal with, some inappropriate clothing for 6 or 7 boys. And every time it was, do you want to just flip it out, or do you want me to just give you a t-shirt? With the female students, it might be, attire that a staff member says, this may be inappropriate. What they're trained on, how it's written, is if you think it's inappropriate, notify an administrator. We'll take a look and we'll make the judgment call, and if we need to, we'll have a conversation with the student. But like anything, it's when it's brought to us, there's always, like with every single situation in the school, there will always be students that don't initially get seen or caught, and we deal with it when it's brought to our attention and when we notice it. It's not unlike, phones or any other rule in the school. Once we see it, we address it. And it seems to have gone pretty well, all things considered. It's not uncommon, as Jude alluded to, for some students to be a little bent out of shape when they're called out on it. But we really try to make a concerted effort to not do that publicly, to just have a conversation with them in private.
The language, the language of minimal midriff is very subjective. I don't like that language. I don't know if we can do something about that, but certain, minimal could be
Minimal.
for one person is
Not
different
minimal.
minimal for another in body types. And I think that if you're going to be showing your midriff, then it should be your midriff. And if you're 5'6" or you're 4'3" or however, you know what I mean. I think that that is just such a gray area.
Yeah, and I'll offer this, Lauren. What you brought up is an issue every single public school has. When I was mentoring other principals, we spoke about this exact topic. What we have now is not perfect with regard to the language. But what I would argue is you have, at best, 2 other options. Do nothing, or you put a certain metric on it. You do not want to be a school that says 3 inches, 5 inches, 7
No,
inches.
you don't, which is why I think you should
'Cause
take it out and just use a blanket statement like inappropriate, up to your discretion.
Yeah.
And then make it so that, you could just say midriff is not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, that's easier said than done
Yeah.
with high school kids.
Yeah,
Well, if it's a rule, it's a rule. It could be.
But it's, okay, but they're the ones dealing with it, and I think they've found a way to make it work.
Well, that's why I asked him what his experience was. If it's
So-
something that's not,
As a board, we
an
hit on
issue.
this a couple of years ago, when it was bad here. And that we sat
that
around-
year.
And we sat here and did the changes. That was one of the changes we put in there to stop some of the issues that were going on up here, because that was one of the hot button topics of the midriffs, actually. Because there really wasn't anything there. And at first, because I know some of the girls may have coached and other things, it was a bumpy road. And then after first couple months of school, if they got a hold of what it is, it really hasn't been a problem. And I asked my own daughter too about this too. It hasn't been a problem. But we as a board, we actually put that language in there so there was something to, reasonable, to give these guys, the administration, something to go off of. It's not perfect, but I can tell you it's gotten a lot better than what the previous principal walked into.
Managed before and it was messy. And
Right.
That
It gets-
has disappeared.
Right.
I haven't heard anything.
That was that first year, that initial bubble.
Yeah.
And for me, and I want to go back to this because I think in some of our schools, this could be one of the issues that they've been having or have had in the past, is that this places the authority to make decisions in the hands of administration. The principal has the authority to issue consequences. That is not the teacher's role. The teacher raises concerns, makes referrals, informs administration, hey, I see something I'd like you to check out. And that's it. Now the teacher is done. They are allowed to go home at the end of the day and feel like the principal made the wrong call. That's okay.
Yep. Yep, okay, moving on.
Well, it does work here, so it can.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the, JICA,
With the one amendment,
with the amendment.
or the revision.
Yep, you
Oh.
deleted G.
Cause we have a open motion for all three,
Yep.
so,
Nah, we can do all three, I guess.
Okay,
We'll do it at the end.
or we can
I
vote
know.
no on that and just reopen.
No, that's fine, we can do it all,
each
we can
one.
do it at the end as long as we all memorize it.
Yeah.
okay,
We're all-
fine.
Pending
all in agreement.
the.
Sounds good.
Okay.
You're right.
Alright,
You're
I just wanted-
absolutely, no, you're
just wanted to
absolutely
make
right.
sure.
Thank you. So next up is the unauthorized communication devices.
Unless somebody wasn't expecting this one, or came with their own agenda tonight, this could be quick, I think. This is different from what you have now. It's also not as wordy and detailed as the NHSBA one that they just wrote probably a week ago. It's just a shorter version with some plainer language. It expands the definition of a communication device to include smartwatches as well as cell phones and anything else that you can use to send and receive messages, connect to the internet, phone calls, texts, any of the above. This is state law. We don't have a lot of choices. Under consequences, the NHSBA started getting into first step do this, second step do, we already did that. That's in the handbook already. I kind of feel talking to colleagues over the last few months like we're ahead of this because of the work we already did over the last few years. So my feeling is let's capitalize on that. Keep this simple, adopt the policy. The principal already has language in the handbook. All we're really changing is study hall or lunch or whenever it was they were allowed phones, now they're not. It is specific about something that's going to be important in a lot of schools this year, and that is in a bag, backpack, handbag, your locker, your car, or at home. Your back pocket, if a teacher can see that phone, that's a violation. So there's no game here about, but I'm not using it. No, they are put away. This is what the School Boards Association is recommending. It is what the governor's intention was, and that will be the rule. Phones are not to be seen. And then we are already talking about having a very adult conversation with faculty on opening days about, look, yes, it's a student rule, not a faculty rule. However, let's be thoughtful and respect the intention here by at least if you're on a prep period, on a break, have an emergency, need to use your phone, discreetly go someplace where you're not just kind of waving your phone around in front of the kids, which would just make things unpleasant.
Yeah, got a question too. Go ahead.
Having dealt with this through many years, on the exception part, the piece that I'm trying to figure how that's gonna be handled is you do have students that come in and are allowed to use their phones, per se, listen to music, do something of that nature. I don't know, how is that going to, I mean.
Yeah, we
how-
don't
They can
actually,
use their
so,
Chromebooks.
did you see me shake my head? So we don't actually, so where we have instances of students with 504s, for example, that include listening to music while testing or while working on, work independently or something, we provide a not network capable MP3 player that plays music that research has shown is soothing and good for concentration. So there is not a case where a student in this school can use their phone because of a 504 to listen to Metallica while they're taking a test. We don't do that. Oddly enough, we've found that when we hand out the MP3 players with classical music loaded on them, some of the students decide they no longer need the accommodation.
Yeah, like magic.
Fuck.
We're the educators, we're in charge.
I have a question on the, students are, sorry, Kristen, did you wanna go?
Just super quick, school-sponsored trips versus extracurricular activities. So, prohibition on school-sponsored trips. So if they're going to go camp up in the White Mountains or go to Disney, are they not allowed their phones? Versus, is that an extracurricular activity where it's at the discretion, but it's not listed as such in the off-campus activities? It's just nomenclature.
Yeah, so, I mean, club advisors, sponsors, and coaches will set rules for the use of devices on these trips.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
I just read that from the policy doc.
On.
Sponsors and coaches will set their rules and establish their consequences for the use and or misuse of these devices. That's for under off-campus activities.
I didn't see anything on club though. I thought you said just. I thought you just said club.
Oh, extracurricular, it's all kind of addressed together.
Student
All
facing
extracurricular activities, athletics, whether it's
But
the
that versus
World Language
like a
Club or the soccer team.
School-sponsored trip, where it's prohibited in the second paragraph. That's all I wanted to just.
So under restrictions.
Yeah, I see, it's
the
just for like a
second
field trip.
paragraph.
Yeah, so if they go to Boston Museum of Science during the day,
Right.
what do they do with their cell phones?
So is that
That's up to the.
Yeah, I think the principal and the teachers have to work that out.
okay? So what's a
Yeah.
prohibited? When is it prohibited? What school-sponsored trip are you thinking of when it's prohibited? In the second paragraph, the prohibition.
Yeah, no, I mean, if, sure,
I'm
but,
just asking,
yeah, no,
like,
I think, I mean,
What is a
these are gonna be
school-sponsored trip
case
that's
by
not an
case.
extracurricular activity?
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to sort
No,
out.
I have an answer for you, Chrissy. These are gonna be case by case, principal and teacher and advisor kind of conversations, right? But when Mr. Corvo takes a group of kids to the Museum of Fine Arts, right? They might be able to use their phones in the van on the ride down there. But while they're in the Museum of Fine Arts, I would hope Mr. Corvo is gonna say, put them in your backpacks, turn them off. I would hope that already happens.
Right.
Before we have this
And I think,
policy.
I just
let's
wanted
see
to-
how that
Yeah.
goes, and if we need to
care,
make
but I
a
just wanted
strict
to-
policy.
No, I think that's good.
Contradicting itself, that's all.
It is.
That's why I'm asking, just seems like it's, cause it explicitly says school-sponsored trips. For prohibition of these devices includes lunch periods, study halls, and during passing time, as well as on school-sponsored trips. I don't know, forgive me.
Oh, you're good.
It's good.
See that language there? Just that.
I mean, to just remove that, and then it's considered an off-campus activity at that point. And then leave that to the discretion of the club sponsor or coach, director, whatever.
Isn't there, and I don't know, I'm just shooting from the hip here because I can't remember, but isn't there something in the student handbook? Whereas when students are on field trips, they need to follow the student handbook. So they gotta act like they're in school when they're on a field trip.
Yes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
So
school rules
that
apply
covers a lot of
typically on
this.
any
but
event,
if we allow,
school-sponsored event.
yeah,
So,
Including dress code.
so I think like you said, if we get rid of the as well on school sponsored trips and driver education classes, then it leaves up to discretion of those running those.
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't,
Yeah, no, makes sense, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense to me.
Okay,
Take that
great.
line out, and
Thank you.
then it addresses it down below.
yeah,
So we take that line out, which will be part of it when we approve this. We take
Okay.
that line right out, and then everything else looks,
Okay.
everybody else
Thank you.
okay, the rest of it?
Everyone else
Lauren?
look good? Lauren, did you
Lauren
have
had
anything, or did you get
Well,
solved?
I was wondering, can the students email their parents' personal emails through their school device?
Yes.
can it? No, well, not, I don't think you can in the middle school.
It says students are encouraged.
Maybe not in the middle, I think high school you can.
I think high school they
I
can.
think it's
So,
strictly.
Lauren, I'm glad,
Looking at the handbook part, like at the
Well,
bottom.
I was just wondering, this ties with the cell phone policy. I was just wondering, like, if they, in the policy, we were talking about cell phones. They can't use the cell phones anymore, which is great, but they can still use their school-issued device to contact their parents.
Yes.
And I wondered how that works.
like sending any other
So that
email.
email does reach outside other emails.
It's an interesting question. I'm
So
gonna
they could email each other then.
see if I can get an answer on the fly from.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, kids have figured this out for
Person who
ages.
knows.
They'll open up a Google Doc. Listen, we're not gonna shut kids down. I mean, unless you'd like to have a one-on-one for every student and follow them around and look over
Well,
their shoulder. They're smarter than we
And
are.
I think the state law is strictly personal devices
Yeah.
versus, yeah,
School
they can abuse
device.
it, but.
Yeah, but that's where
It's
your
not-
IT director comes
So
in. and-
I won't be, and I just texted the IT director to find out if he happens to be, he may be watching, I don't know. Do you know?
I don't even know.
I don't think you can, and that's why I want
Well,
to be able
it,
to.
it may depend by grade level, by age. We've done a bunch of work the last few years on phasing in access to technology in age-appropriate ways. So I won't be surprised if the answer we get, and we might not get it while we're sitting here, is, oh yeah, starting in high school, they can do this, this, and
We'll
this.
assume they will, because they're applying to colleges, they're doing a bunch of other things. So they need access-
Externships, whatever.
Yeah, they need access, yeah, I'm assuming high school, they probably
But
can.
if they are using that email to apply, are they able to access the email outside the school year, calendar year? Like when they leave in June, can they still check their emails over the summer?
Yeah,
They
I think-
can.
kids can.
I mean,
We
email
can
and
now,
kids
and
don't.
Also, like I'm pretty sure I've emailed I've emailed external, like outside of the school, like personal
Okay,
emails.
that's what I'm just.
But I don't know if a middle school student can.
No,
That's the thing that I think is up
the
in the
middle
air.
school can't, that's why I just wanted to
Yeah,
ask to see if high school
Yeah,
can.
my daughter emails her, and the chef up here and, coaches and everything else, yeah, so there's access to,
Okay.
to email.
That's good.
Okay,
All
okay, not okay, okay.
right. Next one. Was that it?
Earning of high school credit, achievement of competencies.
So there's a lot here, but it's all based on laws that have been adopted or new Ed 306 regulations that have been adopted by the State Board of Education. Some of these things, extended learning opportunities, we've talked a lot about the last few years. We didn't used to have a lot of them at this school. We have more now. Alternative plans are interesting. Principal Latchaw, Matt, I hate to put you guys on the spot, but 30 or more kids on alternative plans maybe at the school here last year? Or is that too high? 20?
No, I think that's
It's at
probably.
least a couple dozen,
It's a
right?
pretty close number.
We wrote our first alternative learning plan. You had a policy allowing alternative learning plans. It existed for a long time. We wrote the first one here 2 years ago. And at least a couple dozen, maybe 30, give or take, kids had alternative plans. I'm gonna talk for a second about why that's a good thing. It is a change in public education. It ties in with this attendance thing, right, that we talked about with athletics. If a student decides during his high school career, I'm not going to college. I have a future in front of me that interests me, in say welding, for example, and I can get a job and I can start learning and I can still take the classes I need to take to graduate, but if you'd give me some ELO credit for the time I spend learning how to weld at work, that would help me satisfy some of my graduation requirements, right, for electives. This is a kid now who's potentially coming to school in the morning, taking 3 classes, eating lunch, and leaving and going to work. Under traditional public school policies, including here, that child wouldn't qualify to be enrolled here as a student, but under state law, he does. And the device we use to make that happen is an alternative plan, where the student, his parent or guardian, director of guidance, principal, and ultimately I have to approve these. We all sign off on the plan, agreeing this is a reasonable pathway to a diploma for you. This is personalized education, folks. That's what this is. That student is now present in school when he's in all those different places. There was a time when public schools would look at a student like this and say, you don't fit, you need to withdraw. You can drop out, you can get your GED, those things are fine, we might even help you, but you don't fit. You're not a high school student anymore. That is not what we're doing today. That is a high school student. We want him to be a high school student. I think our taxpayers want him to be a high school student because that student counts in our average daily membership, and we receive adequacy aid and differentiated aid from the state of New Hampshire for keeping that student enrolled on an alternative plan, even if he's in our building less time than he would have been in the past. So I see more of these in the future of education, not fewer, and this policy supports those kinds of options that we're all offering now, or the law says we're all offering now, even though some schools may still be not quite there.
Yeah, they got rid of the vocational programs, but this is how to get them back. I mean, realistically.
Okay, we have,
Any other questions, concerns?
Jason, can I just add something real
Sure.
quick? We didn't get a chance to earlier, Lauren, but the beauty of, the cell phone state, law is that what I hope to see is those kids that want to interface with mom and dad, they can just email them from their student account. So, hey, Dad, can you still pick me up at 2:30 today? Yes. I think what we forget is that sending a text message is an email. You can do that right through your student account.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
So I can't speak for other schools, and I know Matt just walked in, but, a high school student here can communicate with mom and dad through the school day, through their school-issued account and email. The only time that would be blocked is if they're using profane language or profane links. But the beauty is that any kid who goes, well, my child has a little anxiety, I want to be able to check it with them. Okay, send them an email. They can see it instantly, and vice versa. It goes just as quick as sending text messages, actually quicker, because you're not dealing with hundreds and thousands of pounds of concrete. It'll be instant.
The worst cell service in all time.
Right, no,
So
that's good.
what I suspect we'll see, and this is a huge benefit, we have the backing of state law, and now students are actually checking their email. So when we're giving them all these great updates about awesome stuff that's happening, they might actually be incentivized to go, hey boss, I may not be able to make it right at 4 o'clock today, I'll be there at 4:30. Send your boss an email. That is a text message.
If my staff could check their email database,
So, I won't speak to middle school and elementary schools, but high school students can have instant communication with mom and dad. Just send them an email and vice versa.
Awesome, thank you.
So it makes our lives much easier.
All right, so we already had a motion and a second, with any amendments that we discussed. Is there any other further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? They have all passed.
Thank you for taking the time.
I make a motion to withdraw the policies of IMBC, JICM.
Second?
A motion and a second to withdraw some policies. Any comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Before we go into personnel, I'm gonna wrap everything up, and then we'll do personnel. So, next, I'll open public input. Next, I'll close public input. Future, agenda and follow-up items, we're gonna do buildings and ground next month.
I don't know if I'm gonna be free.
We can still do it with, do we need buildings and ground next month? Let's look at it.
Up to you. We can bring Jim with an update on the ongoing projects, or we can have a meeting.
Just kind of come to the meeting. That's fine, because Eric might not be
We
around, so.
can put them at the beginning.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. That'll work. Any other, future agenda items? I know it's early in the year,
Next meeting is
September 16th, the next meeting.
I have one for you, a couple for you. In your packet and in an email today, I sent you a summary of 4 strategic priorities that I see myself working on for you and with you over the rest of the year. I welcome your feedback regarding my goals, whatever you want to see me doing this year, so please take this. Is this fair? And maybe in September we can revisit. I don't think there are any surprises on this sheet of paper. It's all the same stuff that we've been doing here over a long period of time. Second, the shared services group, remember you?
Yeah.
So our new attorney, Jim O'Shaughnessy, and I have spent some time over the summer getting him up to speed on the consolidation that we've done and where we are. He is prepared to come and spend an evening with the 4 of you and with me, and he characterized his September as pretty wide open right now, although if you are watching the news, he's working for Claremont, so I think his calendar's about to fill up.
It just got filled up.
But if we act fast, we should be able to reserve an evening that's good for us in September. So if the 4 of you can hang around and talk about that maybe after the meeting, perhaps you guys and Sarah and I could offer Jim a date that's good. He also said if you have specific questions questions about SAU mergers, about that process, and you can put them together in an email to me to forward to him or whatever, he'll come prepared. And he's done this before, so I think that'll be good. Those are my two things, thank you.
Do you have any action non-public or just news?
I have a few non-public items.
All under personnel?
200 personnel, and then some non-meeting items regarding negotiations.
Next future meeting is September 16th. We'll be going into non-public. When we come out of non-public, we will just basically adjourn. So.
Make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3 II, A, and C.
Second.
Roll call.